So Nadila believes that the success came from encouraging diverse ideas and making sure his employees' contributions are being valued. So that's what he strongly believes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hello, Selamat Hari Raya, and welcome to our MBA Leadership Podcast series. I'm Sharifah, and I'll be your host for today's episode, the first in our three-part series of inclusive leadership. In this series, we'll dive into what inclusive leadership truly means, how it's practiced, and the lessons we can learn from both success and failure. I'm joined today by three of my fellow MBA classmates and co-hosts, Ain, Tash, and Vic. Please briefly introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, good morning everyone. Very happy to be with you guys. I'm Ain, final year's master student from healthcare industry.
Hi everyone. My name is Tash. I'm from construction industry.
Hello everyone, my name is Vicky. I'm semester 2 student and I'm in finance industry.
Thank you. Let's get started while enjoying our drinks and biscuits. Ain, let's start with you. Can you help us define what inclusive leadership is and what are some of the key characteristics, values, and behaviors that define an inclusive leader?
Okay, sure. So first of all, inclusive leadership refers to a leadership style centered on fostering a work environment where every employee feels valued, respect, and included regardless of their differences. So in this case, inclusive leaders would foster psychological safety, encourage diverse perspective, and build equitable environment so that it can support the sense of belonging and innovation among all the employees. So, if we want to look into a more technical term, Deloitte would says that inclusive leadership refers to leadership that assures all team members are treated respectfully and fairly, and they are confident and inspired to provide contribution in terms of work regardless of their background. So some of the key characteristics for inclusive leadership would include commitment to diversity and inclusion, whereby and inclusive leaders are deeply committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion, not just as a corporate policy, but as a personal and ethical responsibility, which we could normally see when it comes to advocating for inclusive policies and hiring practices.
Mhm. Okay, thank you, Ain. That's a very solid foundation. Now, let's move to Tash. Around the world, we've seen how inclusive leadership can drive success. Could you share some success stories or situations of inclusive leadership and what we can learn from them?
Yeah, sure. So the success story that I intend to share with you all is a success story of Microsoft. So it's
Mhm.
implemented by the Microsoft CEO, who is Satya Nadella. So when he became the CEO in 2014, so he makes sure that inclusive leadership is the key part of Microsoft's strategy. So
Mhm.
what he actually do is he introduced growth mindset training, which encourage employees to keep learning and stay open to new ideas. So he also supported groups which help underrepresented employees. All right,
Mhm.
he which helps underrepresented employees to have their voice heard and organize global meetings to talk openly about diversity and inclusive. So thanks to Satya Nadella, so Microsoft rose from 300 billion in
Mhm.
2014 to actually 3 trillion in
Wow.
2021, which is a very huge growth for Microsoft. So Nadella believes that the success came from encouraging diverse ideas and making sure his employees' contributions are being valued. So that's what he strongly believes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great example, Tash. It shows just how powerful inclusive leadership can be. But leadership doesn't always go right. Uh, and back to you. Can you share a case or example where leadership failed due to the lack of inclusivity?
Yes, sure. It will be a pleasure to do so. So, in my case, one example that I would like to share would be back in 2018 in a fashion industry. We comes back
Mhm.
to H&M on their marketing blunder. So what happened was that they have this campaign which featured a black child model wearing a hoodie. But then again, it's labeled with coolest
Mm.
monkey in the jungle. That sounds very bad, right?
Yeah.
So from this itself, we can see that there is a failure due to the lack of inclusive leadership in the planning and the decision making itself. So what happened would be, should they have a more inclusive team, they would have caught on the racially insensitive
Mhm.
messages, like what we even can see from layman or common perspective. And the other thing would be, it is because there is a poor cultural awareness, which demonstrated to a lack of understanding of historical and racial context. So the consequences of this failed case of inclusive leadership come back to a massive backlash on social media and calls for boycott for H&M. And what's worse is that there was even physical protests occurred in South Africa and the stores were vandalized. So at the end, H&M apologized and appointed a global head of diversity to prevent similar cases in the future.
Thanks, Ryan. Vic, I'd love to hear your thoughts too. Do you have another example of failed leadership and what lessons we can take away from it?
Actually, I think Ein's example is good enough already. I don't know how I'm going to top it up, but I'll try. Yeah. So I think a clear example of inclusive leadership failure was when Elon Musk took over Twitter in 2022. Like thousands of employees were laid off without proper notice. They were locked out of their system, right? So when we there was no real communication or opportunity for the staffs to share their thoughts in the process. So as we know, as what I explained before this, inclusive leadership is about openness, being in involving people around the decision making. So none of it happened in this case, right?
Mhm.
So it shows how leaders this shows how things can go wrong when leaders don't involve their people and consider how decision impact them. And it makes is right after this decision, right, most of the people who retain their job over there, they resign and they move out because of the culture it
Mhm.
creates. So I think that's one the example I could share. But we could also think from a management point of view. Let us wear a management head, for example. We could say that they decided to cut costs and also restructure quickly. For that might be his reason, right? But I still think a transparency over there could be given by Elon Musk, so that others feel included in the situation. Yeah.
Thanks, Vic. Wow, those are eye opening examples. It really drives home the point that inclusion isn't just a buzzword, it has real impact on morale, innovation, and performance. To wrap up today's episode, we've learned that inclusive leadership is about more than just good intention. It's about behaviors, actions, and mindsets. Leaders who actively listen, appreciate diverse perspectives, and create safe spaces are the ones who truly make a difference. In our next episode, we'll be joined by a special guest, Mr. Matt, who will share his experience leading a well rounded multicultural organization. So stay tuned for more real world insights on leading with inclusion. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in episode 2.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Bye.